Welcome back. In this video we are going to look at how to go from a percent into a fraction and then from a fraction back into a percent. It's actually fairly simple. The main game comes all down to reduce when you are going from percents into your fractions. So here what you have to remember is that our whole or our total is always going to be 100%. And so what we do is we are going to set up our fraction in a way that we have the given percent on top over 100% on the bottom, and then you reduce. So here we're going to have 98% over 100%. So this is going to simply become the fraction 98 over 100, and we want to reduce. So the first thing we can do is divide them both in half. We end up getting 49 over 50, and that is our reduced fraction. So this would be your answer. Now here we have 250%. We're going to take that over 100%. So again, our fraction is going to become 250 over 100. Now you can do this one without a calculator. First, both of them end in 0, so we can take one of those away. Gives us 25 over 10. Then what's in common between 25 and 10 would be a 5. So this is going to reduce down to 5 halves. Last, we have 2.4% over 100%. Now, because this is a decimal, one of the things that we have to do is we have to move the decimal to make it a whole number. Well, if you move it on the top, then you have to move it on the bottom as well. So if we're looking, this becomes it's 2.4 over 100. We have to move that decimal over, both top and bottom, so we're essentially shifting ourselves one. So this becomes 24 over 1,000. Then from here we can reduce. What's common between 24 and 1,000 would be 8. So if we divide 8 out of the top, we end up with 3. 8 out of the bottom, we get 125. And this would be that reduced fraction. Okay. So what happens if we have fractions already? So the first thing that you want to do is we want to go from mixed to improper. So we have 15 and 5/8. So to do that, again, remember it's going to be bottom times the big number plus the top goes into the top, keep the bottom as is. So here this should become 125 over 8, and remember this was a percent. So we're going to do 125 over 8%, and we're going to divide that by 100%. Your fraction rules say to keep the top, change the sign, and flip the reciprocal of the bottom. So this is going to end up being 125 over 800. Again, we can reduce that down and we end up with 5 over 32. Let's do it one more time. Again, we want to go from mixed to your improper. So my 18 1/3 is going to become bottom times the big number plus 1 over the bottom. So here, when we're looking at that, we're going to end up with 55 over 3. Remember, this was our percent. So we've got 55 over 3, and we're going to divide that by 100%. So here we're going to keep the top, multiply by the reciprocal of the bottom. So this becomes 55 over 300, which is going to reduce down to 11 over 60, and that would be your result. So those were all different examples of being able to go from a percentage into a fraction. And then remember, the rule of the thumb is reduce, reduce, reduce. Okay? Now, what if we wanted to go from a fraction back into a percent? So there's a couple things we need to look at. First, we've got the main idea, which is to change a fraction to a percent, you should multiply the fraction by 100 and add your percent sign. So you will automatically be given a fractional or a whole number answer. However, the other option that we have would be to take your fraction, change it to a decimal, and then go from your decimal into a percent using your multiply by 100 method. So either way would work. My personal opinion is to go ahead and change your fractions down to a decimal, and then just simply move your decimal point those two places. Usually it does end up being the easiest result to do, and you don't have to mess with reducing or playing around with some crazy fractions. So here you could take out your basic calculator, and the first one we're going to look at is 3/8. So we're going to take 3 divided by 8 and hit enter, and so this is going to be the same as the decimal 0.375. Once we know what that decimal is, we're going to take that decimal, and you can do one of two things. The first is you just simply move your decimal place 1, 2, and write your percent. So then this would be 37.5 and add that percentage sign. Or the second way is to take your decimal, multiply it by 100%, which is going to give you the same result. You're still going to end up with 37.5%. Okay? And it's just as simple as that. So here I would do the same thing again. I would take my 2/5, go into your calculator, 2 divided by 5, and hit enter. So this is going to give you 0.4. Then again, you can either move your decimal place 2 places, or remember 0.4 times 100% is going to give you 40%. Last, we have 1/6. So here we have 1 divided by 6. Notice this has a repeating decimal. So this is going to give you 0.1, and then it's 666 with that repeating. Okay. So the biggest thing to do when you have repeating is you want to look at your directions. My directions here say round to the nearest 1/10 of a percent. You're going to want to leave the repeating decimal alone, and then you're going to want to multiply it. So 0.1666 repeating times my 100%. So since I still have this in my calculator, it's very simple. I can do the times 100 here, and I get 16.66 repeating. It's the same as if we had moved our decimal place twice over. So here, this is going to give you 16.66 repeating. Once you know what that percent is, now you're going to go ahead and round. So here we want to round to the nearest tenth. So that would mean we're rounding to this first place right here. So we're going to use this place next to it to tell you if we go up or down. Since 6 is greater than 5, this is going to round to 16.7%, and that would be your result. Okay? So that is what you need to know about working from fractions to percents. Again, I can't stress enough that the easiest result is to take your fraction, convert it to a decimal, and then find your percentage. Okay? It makes it so that you don't have to worry about dealing with fractional forms. Okay? So, if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, be sure to smile, relax, have fun with your math, and I will see you next time.